It's, you see this name thrown around, or you see this phrasing thrown around a lot, game changer. Mm-hmm. This is really a game changer for a lot of, administrators, a lot of teachers, and more importantly, a lot of our members. And we see that since June 1, about 20% of students in our 6 different districts have used our programs. Mm-hmm. So that's not counting the more popular summer programs we do coming up to June. So it's a game changer for a lot of these kids, both educationally, socially, for a lot of them. One of the things that's really neat about the program that binds through it is that you get to see it's all comers. So you see the athlete with the kid who's not so athletic. You see the kid who's drama and the kid who avoids drama, so to speak. And you see them all kind of interacting together, and we think that's very important. So the organization absolutely does some fantastic and wonderful work under the guidance of not only a member of the board, but our board of directors, President Lou Sacco.
Lou Sacco. Lou, of course, you've been with Evergreen Boys and Girls Club for quite a while now, and you're at a ton of different schools around the area. The program keeps expanding. The services they're vital for our kids now. They've become a very necessary part of many children's education.
It has. It's one of the reasons why I got involved with Boys and Girls Club. I've seen a difference being in the line of work that I've done for many years. One thing that keeps kids out of trouble is keeping busy.
Yeah.
And this is what this does. I mean, it gets kids involved, the statistics have shown that it's helped them not only in education but in social areas, and they've seen increases with math, with reading, a lower percentage of disciplinary action in school. Mm-hmm. It's just helped tremendously.
Yeah. So a new school year has begun. Evergreen Boys and Girls Club, of course, is very much involved in many schools. Now, how many schools are we in this year?
We're in every school except Indiana
and
Pence
Manor.
And that's Indiana and Marion Center.
Marion Center, I'm sorry.
Marion Center.
Correct.
And we do, both elementary and high school. So there's 2 sets of clubs within each school.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's tremendous because you're talking about 2 entirely different educational experiences that the children are experiencing.
Right, and it's, in each of these programs, you've got to imagine that you've got, one set of learning for the elementary kids and some for the high school. What we're seeing in a lot of our programs is the melding of 2. Seeing where some of the mentoring is coming from the high school kids into the elementary kids. And it is very important, whenever Louis talks about interaction, that social interaction. 2 out of 3 kids, 60% of the kids do better in classroom participation, where it's not only participation, but respecting the kid next to them, respecting the staff, respecting what they're asked to do. So it goes everything from physical activity to learning activity. Every one of our programs also provide our summer programs provide a meal. Our after schools provide a snack. Sometimes that's just the quote unquote nourishment that a kid needs that he may not be getting outside of the school or outside of the home.
And one thing too, it also provides free transportation. So these after club, they're getting free transportation back. So this not only helps the kids, but it also helps the parents too that are working parents.
It takes a tremendous amount of people, though, to make that happen, doesn't it?
We've got a staff of about 60, and you don't think that it's that large, but our ratio of student to teacher or student to instructor is 1 in 10 in the high schools and 1 in 12, or 1 to 12 in the elementaries. So we've got our sites are set up with a district director. So we have 6 district directors, and then each district director has 2 lead staff. And then underneath those lead staff, they have individual employees or volunteers that help throughout the day, whether it's instructional, whether it's, again, social networking, dealing with some of the heavier issues. So, there's a lot of training that goes in. There's a curriculum that we are funded by a federal grant, about a $2.1 million federal grant, which is the 21st Century Learning Centers grant. So we are required. It's great. It's funny because everyone says, this sounds like a heck of a lot of fun, and it is. But we are required to deliver particular curriculum. I know it's a lot of fun, but I can tell you what, I go to work and I see discipline reports that are sent from instructors. So it's not only just, let's go to the after school and hang out. Let's go to the after school and learn. Each program has what we call the Power Hour, where the kids are getting homework assistance. When you look at homework assistance, there's kids that just aren't getting their homework done for whatever reason. We're making sure that's happening. One of the bigger programs also that's rather popular is what we call credit reclamation. So say a student fails a grade. They can take classes to regain that grade and then move to the next grade rather than, you remember, it's funny because I go back and think of how many kids, many, many years ago that I grew up with, and you say, remember Jimmy? And they're like, oh, yeah, that's the kid that got held back in second grade. And you think, that was second grade. How long ago did that stigma stay along with that poor child's life? So I think a lot of these programs are very important, not only to the educational end, but to the social world that the children have to every day face.
I think one of the great aspects of that as well is when a child falls behind in a class and just gets passed through to the next level. Well, they were already struggling at this grade. Now you're asking them to go to a more sophisticated level of the next level of that class. And if they were struggling back here, they're going to struggle even more because the demands of that class are even more. So just the remedial aspect of that is going to really make a difference in a kid's life.
I mean, you can sit and you can talk about, the spiral effect. Lou and his other line of work, we want to see the kids in the after school program, not
in the back of a police
in the back of Lou's car.
I'd rather see Lou Sacco talk to him after school at 2:45 than talk to him at 6:45 that same day because they made a bad decision. And the nice thing about the program, again, it's all comers. It's you come to the club. No one asks how much you make, where you come from, what you worship, what your beliefs are. It's come as you are, and we're going to make you all fit together as one big group.
And I get to talk to a lot of people, and they tell me when they find out I'm on the board, and they tell me that their kids are involved with club, and they just tell me how much their kids enjoy it, and it kind of puts a smile on their face. So we do get a lot of thank yous from the parents.
Oh, I would guess. When you make a difference in one of their children's lives, then they're going to notice things like that. You hope they do. Sometimes there are parents that just, let the kid float through. But most 99% of parents are very concerned about what happens next with their child. If they're not getting it at this level, then obviously as they move forward in life, then they're going to have more struggles. And the more you get to that early, the better it's going to be. The better outcome will be.
The better outcome,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're talking today with Dave Janusek and Lou Sacco about the Evergreen Boys and Girls Club. So tell me how a typical, say, elementary school program would work after school. The school bell sounds, kids get on their buses, they head off home, but some don't. Some stay for Boys and Girls Club.
Some stick around, and it's, again, whenever you go into any one of our centers, right on the wall will be that activity calendar. So it'll tell you what we're doing from 2:45 to 3 o'clock, 3:15 to 3:30, and so on and so forth. So a typical day in an elementary and or high school, the typical part is the learning part. What they're learning isn't always typical. So the kids will come in, they'll do their homework hour. Got to get your homework done. That's just like anything else. When little kids do homework first, go out and play later. So they get their homework done. Many of them will be involved in different things. Very interesting. We just partnered not too long ago with the Carnegie Science Center. So the Carnegie Science Center brought up the Fab Lab. So there were kids. It's interesting. You realize how, I don't know what's a good word I can use, how archaic some of us in this room may be when you walk into one of these classrooms. And you say,
he just called you old, Lou.
Oh, no, you called him old. I called him archaic. That's a much nicer word.
Let me tell you something. After working IUP homecoming weekend, I looked at these kids and I'm like, I'm old.
Well, I get the same feeling walking into a classroom and the kid says, let me show you my Spiro robot. And I'm like, do I want to see that? Do I not want to see that? I'm not sure what I'm going to see. And it's a kid coded. It's a Spiro robot. It's a little ball that they're not playing with. They're writing code for this to do a particular task. When Carnegie Science Center came up, they did particular tasks with these in the Fab Lab with these Spiro robots. Right now, several of ours districts are involved in a curriculum that we purchased called Invention Land. Now, the interesting thing about Invention Land, we are the first after-school program in the country to use this curriculum. So it's kind of exciting. It's a couple of gentlemen out of Pittsburgh that literally the idea behind Invention Land is pretty simple. If you had an idea, if you said there's a better way to do something, they want you to come into their facilities in RADC Park as an adult, and they'll get you from they'll either get you from what they thought was a good idea to tell you it's not such a good idea, or to the point of always the marketing. They now have a curriculum that they use in high schools and in high schools. We're using that here in Indiana County. So at the end of the semester, these kids will have invented something, all the way to the point of how to market it. So whenever you look at a world economy, you look at outside of Indiana County, I want to believe that our programs are providing the things that, it's funny because, and this is nothing against, when someone says, oh, I'm fine, my son or daughter goes to Grandma and Grandpa's house after school, and it's just perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure Grandma and Grandpa doesn't have a Spiro robot or a Fab Lab or, an Invention Land. So there's that social interaction that I keep talking about, and there's that not so typical learning that's going on every day. And we're still going back to the old-fashioned learning, where you've got to be able to do the 3 R's, but we're also implementing 21st century learning. So when you say, what's a typical day? It could be a Spiro robot one day, it could be slime the next. Mm-hmm. You never know what you're walking into, but it is a structured and safe environment for the children to learn in.
Yeah, and probably very much is the case that children that don't learn in one sort of an environment might learn when you take a different approach. Right. And sounds like Evergreen Boys and Girls Club can offer that. Lou, he mentioned a couple of moments ago the federal funding aspect. Evergreen Boys and Girls Club, obviously, like everybody else, you have your financial needs and funding, and the board's job is to make sure that you're able to meet all of your financial obligations. How is that done?
Well, in this day and age, it's difficult.
Yeah.
We do rely on the 21st century grant funding, but we do fundraising, and it's one of the things that we're working on to put together something that is basically, how an organization will have that one big fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And that's something right now that we put together a fundraising committee, and we're looking at actually throwing around some ideas and putting things together. But we've had different types of fundraising events. We had the Kiss a Pig. Remember, I had to kiss a pig last year.
Nicely done by you too. Are you still dating?
Yeah. But I took a lot of ribbing about that one. ribbing, he said.
Look at you guys. You're out of my league. I'm out of you guys' league. I'm just gonna sit back here.
But no, I mean, and it was successful, and we've done some smaller fundraising stuff. But what we're trying to look at is try to self-sustain. So, with this grant funding, one day it's there and the next day it's gone.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get together and put together something that would be a real big fundraiser and maybe be self-sustaining one day.
Yeah, well, we'll find out about that when you have more firmly developed plans. We'll get you back on. We'll talk about that.
We actually have a fundraising meeting
this afternoon.
This afternoon.
Yeah.
There
we'll
you
be back
go.
tomorrow morning. Yeah, with a great idea. That's our plan.
That's not a bad plan at all. Gentlemen, we thank you. We're right up to the marker here. The Brian Kilmeade Show is coming up. We appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
appreciate
Todd.
it.